Editing the VMX file is something that you're going to do because it ends up being a relatively common administrative function. Now, it's one of those things that you do just often enough to confuse yourself and to cause some major hassles for yourself. And so there's some things I want to point out here about editing the VMX file. Now, first of all, every virtual machine has a VMX file. Let me pull a window on here. And notice this is my list of virtual machines on my host machine right now. And for example, in the Ubuntu system files or the disk files, you see all my VMDK files because I'm using split files. There are some log files and so forth. But right here is the .vmx file. Now if I right click on this and open with Notepad, you see what this looks like. It's a list of like dictionary key values. For example, power type, power on is hard. And as I set some of the different options in the workstation interface for this machine, it's setting them out here. This is what's actually being read when I open the machine or power it off or whatever. And I'm actually going to show you a scenario in a couple of videos here where we're going to go edit this to make it do some things that we want it to do. So that's the VMX file. You'll see one of these for every virtual machine you have. Now let's talk about some of the gotchas about editing the VMX file. First of all, you need to understand anytime you do this, this should give you that same tingly feeling of fear that formatting a hard drive does. When you're formatting a disk, you right click and you choose format and it'll ask you, are you sure you want to format? You always go back and check and make sure you clicked on the right disk. You're not formatting the wrong thing. We've all formatted a disk at one time or another. We didn't mean to. And it's just not a good thing, especially in a corporate environment. So you should get that same feeling, just a little uncomfortable feeling like editing the registry anytime you go into the VMX. Be very, very careful. Now, there are some things you need to remember when you're editing the VMX file. You should always power off the virtual machine before editing the .vmx file. This is a very dynamic file. It's being written to and read from constantly while the virtual machine is running, and so you want to power off the virtual machine before you edit this thing. You also will have to have appropriate permissions to edit this file, And then you need to always make a backup copy of the VMX file before you edit it. So go in there, right click on it, copy it, go paste it somewhere else, rename it, make sure that you've got a good copy, because it is possible to get hidden characters in these things, and suddenly your machine just won't boot, it just won't run right. You've got some junk in there, but you can't see it. Just go grab your old copy, bring it back, and start over. Now, here's something else you need to be aware of. There are going to be times when you're having a problem, you're having an issue, or you're trying to do something kind of cool or neat or different with your virtual machines. You get out on the internet or you get into VMware support forums and they show you a workaround. And it always involves in putting 1, 2, 100 or whatever lines in that .vmx file. Well, then when they come back and upgrade Workstation and you upgrade to the latest, newest, coolest version, guess what? Your edits and your workarounds are version specific to Workstation, and they may not continue working after an upgrade. So this might flavor your decisions on how many of these editing the VMX type workarounds you do, because keep in mind, if you're doing these things, if you're doing a lot of edits to your VMX file, then before you upgrade Workstation to the next version when it comes out, then you want to go test that somewhere and make sure that it's not going to cause major hassles for you. So that's just some of the ins and outs of editing the VMX file. And a little bit later on, we're going to talk about working with the BIOS on the virtual machine. And I'm going to show you how to go edit the VMX file to make that easier for you. So be careful editing the VMX file, but understand there's a lot of power out there. So it's worth going out there, chasing some documentation down and digging around on VMware's website and really familiarize yourself with the .vmx file.